Hi, welcome to DT Knows Ball. My name's Dustin, and I have one big question for you today, and that is, what would have happened if Le'Veon Bell never sat out the entirety of the 2018 season? I get caught up in these what ifs all the time, and as you can tell by my shirt or jersey that I'm wearing today, I was a huge Le'Veon Bell fan. So I want to go over what would have happened, how would the Steelers' season have unfolded, how would he have done? So let's get into that. If you like this content or football related content, I post shorts about football every single day. Please like and subscribe. It means the world to me. All right, let's get into this. Le'Veon Bell sat out the entirety of the 2018 season after he was franchise tagged for a second straight year after earning 2017 All-Pro honors as a flex. He turned down the Steelers' long-term offer of 5 years, $70 million due to frustrations with the guaranteed money in the contract. Now, mind you, 2017 was a big season for the Steelers. They went 13-3. They lost in the divisional round to the Jaguars, unfortunately, after the ANC Championship appearance in 2016. So they had been on a roll for a couple years. They had a good team together. They had Big Ben Roethlisberger. They had Antonio Brown. They had Le'Veon Bell. They had James Conner as the backup running back, Martavis Bryant. I mean, list goes on and on. In that 2017 season, Ben Roethlisberger threw for 4,251 yards, 28 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. Le'Veon Bell had 321 attempts for 1,291 yards and 9 touchdowns, 85 receptions for 655 yards and 2 touchdowns. So essentially, as far as his contract goes, he wanted paid as the team's number 1 running back and the team's number 2 receiver, which on paper and statistically, he was. In that 2017 season, Antonio Brown finished with 101 receptions, 1,500 plus receiving yards, 9 touchdowns, and it was Juju Smith-Schuster's rookie year where he broke out a little bit. 58 receptions, 917 yards, and 7 touchdowns. They were on fire. So heading into that 2018 season, they had high expectations. They wanted to push to a Super Bowl victory, and it was important to keep Le'Veon Bell on that field. So when he decided to sit out, us fans were livid. We wanted nothing more than to see him out on the field. But we had to put our hopes and dreams into James Conner, hoping that he would develop into a top running back in the league and help lead the Steelers to a postseason appearance and hopefully eventually a Super Bowl. So how that 2018 season ended up playing out was that the Steelers went 9-6-1 and they missed the playoffs. James Conner started in place of Le'Veon Bell. Conner had a decent season. He had 215 attempts, 973 yards, 12 touchdowns in just 13 games, 55 receptions for 497 yards and 1 touchdown. But you could feel there was something missing not having Le'Veon Bell out there. Now, Le'Veon Bell was great. Coming off that 2017 season where he earned All-Pro honors, he was known as one of the, if not the best running back in the NFL. And at that point, that debate was pretty much between him and Todd Gurley. So missing him was huge. They should have, could have, and probably would have done better with him on the field. Big Ben put up 5,000 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Juju had a huge season that year with 111 receptions, 1,426 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And AB still had a monster year, as he always did back then in the middle of his prime. He had 104 catches for 1,297 yards and 15 touchdowns. And also, mind you, that was TJ Watt's second year where he had 13 sacks and was starting to wreak havoc on NFL offenses. So with some improved positions on defense, they were really trending in the right direction until Bell sat out. Now, we all know the Steelers. They've been known to have trap games in their schedule where they lose ones that they should win. They win games that they should lose. It's just been a common theme for Pittsburgh Steelers football for some reason over the last 20 years or so. So today we're going to look at the games that they lost first and see how the outcomes would have been different if Bell had on the field. Because we're going to assume that if Le'Veon Bell had played, they still would have won all of the games that they won without him. So we're going to start with their Week 1 tie with the Browns. We're just going to flat out say that they would have won if Le'Veon Bell played. Let's be real here. And that would have taken their record on the season from 9-6-1 to 10-6. Now, Week 2, we're looking at this. They had a loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, 42-37. We're going to go ahead and imagine that having Le'Veon Bell on the field is just enough to push past them with that single score, and they win that game, changing their season record to 11-5. In Week 4 of that season, the Steelers lost to the Ravens 26-14, which is typically close games, heated rivalry. But James Conner only had 19 rushing yards on 9 carries, and that's a stat line Le'Veon Bell would have never dreamed of putting up in his career, okay? His numbers would have been much higher than that. We're going to assume that the game's much closer. If not a win, we're going to flip that to a win for the Steelers where they end up 12-4 on the season off of that. The next loss we're going to look at was Week 13 of the season where they lost 33-30 to the Chargers. I think Le'Veon Bell gives them the edge in that game, and they end up winning that, taking their record to 13-3 on the season. Mind you, Le'Veon Bell was this good. Like any game that they were within a couple of points, having Bell on that field, they probably would have won instead of losing because of his ultimate production. At this point in his career, he was like second all-time in scrimmage yards per game in NFL history. The next loss we're taking a look at is Week 14 versus the Raiders, where they lost 24-21. And we're going to keep it real here. The Steelers, that's a classic trap game. I've seen them lose to the Raiders so many times through the years where they most certainly should not have lost to the Raiders. So we're going to keep that one as a loss, believe it or not. It's just very on brand. That's a game they should never lose. It's towards the end of the season. They have a good record already. They just went out there flat and they lost. I mean, there's nothing more to it. It happens all the time. We see it all the time from them. So we're going to keep that one the same. They lose. And then finally, we're getting to week 16, which is the biggest reason why they missed the playoffs in the first place in this, which was they lost to the Saints 31-28, where they lost due to a botched call where they called Joe Hayden for pass interference when it was nowhere near what happened. But in my mind, they never would have been in that situation in the first place if they had Le'Veon Bell on that football field. So we're going to flip that to a win, and the Steelers end the 2018 season 14-2. And now we're getting to the playoff landscape, okay? With these changes we addressed in the season, the Steelers become the first seed in the AFC at 12-4 and get a first-round bye. The Kansas City Chiefs fall to the second seed at 13-3. They get a first-round bye still. The New England Patriots finish as the third seed at 11-5. The Houston Texans finish at the fourth seed at 11-5. Chargers finish at the fifth seed at 11-5. And then the sixth seed goes to the Indianapolis Colts at 10-6. In real life, the Ravens made the playoffs at 9-7 in front of the Steelers, and they're bounced out of this. All other teams made it. The seedings are just a little bit different. How this changes the landscape in the NFC is that the Rams are the first seed at 13-3, Saints are second seed at 12-4, Bears are third seed at 12-4, Cowboys are fourth seed at 10-6, Seahawks are fifth seed at 10-6, and Eagles are the sixth seed at 10-7. So in the AFC playoffs, we have the Texans versus the Chargers, where the Chargers win, and then we have the Patriots versus the Colts, where New England wins. In the NFC wildcard round, we have the Cowboys Seahawks. We're going to say the Cowboys win that one. We have Bears Eagles. We're going to say the Eagles win that one as the sixth seed. This sets up the divisional round of the Steelers versus the Chargers and Chiefs versus New England in the AFC. And then in the NFC, we have Eagles versus Rams and Cowboys versus Saints. Starting with the NFC here, we're going to say that the Rams beat the Eagles. The Rams were so good that year. And then we're going to say that the Saints beat the Cowboys. Saints were also on fire. They were a great team this season, which sets up an NFC championship game of Rams versus Saints. We're going to say Rams win that one. They punch their ticket to the Super Bowl as they did in real life that season. For the AFC, we're going to go ahead and say that the Chiefs beat the New England Patriots and advanced the AFC Championship game. And then we have Steelers-Chargers, who already played earlier in the season, if you remember correctly. The Steelers lost in real life. They won with Le'Veon Bell. There's no reason to believe that they don't win that matchup again in the postseason with everything on the line. Le'Veon Bell probably puts up a huge game, probably 150-plus scrimmage yards, a touchdown or two, probably 6 or 7 catches. Electrifying. And that sets up an AFC Championship game of the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Kansas City Chiefs, which, once again, they played early on in the season. We're going to say with Le'Veon Bell on the field, James Conner coming in as a change of pace back. They still have Juju out there having the best season of his career. They have Antonio Brown out there. They have a prime Big Ben Roethlisberger throwing for 5,000-plus yards in that season. Steelers win once again, and they advance to the Super Bowl. We're on the big stage. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Los Angeles Rams. And now this sets up some huge moments, like Todd Gurley versus Le'Veon Bell, the two best running backs in the league clashing in a Super Bowl appearance, which is something that doesn't typically happen. Historically, teams with the best running backs don't end up in the Super Bowl against each other, which is why it's not a highly drafted position and people focus more on wide receivers and quarterbacks. But this completely changes the landscape in the NFL in many ways. One, Le'Veon Bell after the season finally gets that big contract with the guarantee money he wanted. And one of his goals in fighting his contract and trying to get more money was trying to reset the running back market so they were paid more fairly. At this point in the NFL, running backs were severely underpaid compared to other positions, although it's one of the most important positions on the field as it was viewed as highly replaceable. And it still is, but the best of the best are getting their contracts nowadays. And Le'Veon Bell actually had a huge part in that because no one wants to lose their star running back for a whole entire season now when they should have them. No, don't get me wrong. I think this is a close game. The Rams were so good this year. But I think the Pittsburgh Steelers getting to the Super Bowl, Mike Tomlin coached, young Juju, prime AB, prime Ben Roethlisberger, prime Killer Bees, for Christ's sake. They go out there and they beat that Rams team and they win their 7th Super Bowl. In the aftermath of this game, the Steelers signed Le'Veon Bell to a longer-term contract with the guarantee money he's asking for because they want to keep him in the Steelers organization. They want him to retire a Steeler. In my mind, he never goes to the Jets. He never has that stinker. He never floats around a couple practice squads. And he has an elite ending to his career, and Le'Veon Bell ends up as a Hall of Fame running back someday. I know I didn't go too deep into how these games would have won, stat lines or anything like that. That would have been really difficult to do. This is just my personal opinion on how this season would have been different. And it would have given the Steelers their 7th Super Bowl in my mind if he would have never sat out. They had such a good team put together. They had a good couple years before that. Everything was trending that direction until he decided to sit out. Let me know in the comments if you like this type of content or this idea. I have a lot of ideas for the what ifs of the NFL and videos that I could make about that. So let me know in the comments if you want me to keep doing that. If you like this video and made it this far, like and subscribe. Love you guys. I'll keep posting shorts no matter what. Thank you.